Hello. Hello. Welcome to Foul Territory. I am Hannah Kaiser. I'm filling in for Scott Braun, who I have been told at times was either on a cruise or in Cincinnati. I think those were both jokes. So, Scott, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. Joined by AJ and Erik. Hi, AJ, tell us where you are.
He's muted, unless nobody else can hear him. It's okay.
I can't hear him. There you go.
Say, can you hear it?
Nope.
Still can't hear him. That's okay. This is what he was saying. This is what he was saying.
Yeah,
I'm
Erik.
not sure where I am. I'm not sure where I am. I would really love if Gab would take me off the picture, and I'm at Team USA right now, supporting my son on the travel ball circuit to start him in the big leagues. So that's where AJ is right now. Me, I'm just in the cave.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Could you do both parts? Could you do you two talking about being at Travel Ball USA, you and AJ?
Yeah, well, actually, AJ, I would love to comment on that. So, what is crazy about Travel Ball is the fact that everybody's name is something obnoxious. Power Elite Gold Prime Standard Team, and then it's, oh, well, you could be on this team. It's just an extra $1,000 and 6 days out of your week. Don't worry about it. Go get them.
Do you have children? This is going to be a very baby offspring progeny heavy foul territory because
Yes.
AJ is watching his son play. I am less than a month out from having my first son. So if you have any son advice, whether I should sign him up for travel ball now, should I get ahead of it? Should I get him on the team now?
No, do not get him on a team now.
Okay.
Go in the backyard, or if you're living in the city, find some grass and play catch with them. That will go farther than anything else. By the time by the time your son is Austin's age, AJ's son, then you can start traveling. Then you can do the show remotely from a closet in Cary, North Carolina.
And we'll have to check. All right. So can you hear us, or can we hear you now? Hello.
I don't know. You tell me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. So, what's your kid's name going to be, Hannah? Your son?
Oh my gosh, we do not have time for that. Okay. Do you have boys or girls, both of you? Will you at least have one boy out of this travel ball team? But do you have boys and girls both?
Yes, I have a girl and a boy.
Two boys and one girl.
Who was harder to name?
Neither, because I just let my wife do it.
Yeah, I feel like that's your department, Anna. I don't know.
I feel like we have so many good girls' names and no good ideas for boys' names. So every single baseball player that we talk about on this show today, I will be thinking, should we name our baby that? All right, let's charge the mound. Let's get to some baseball. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Yankees. They've been incredibly good. They've been good all the time, but they've been especially good in the first inning. They've scored 17 first inning runs in June. And the Nationals, sorry to them for catching strays, have only scored 16 first inning runs all season. New York has won 14 of their last 16. They're 2.5 games up on the Orioles in the AL East. They're going for a sweep of the Royals. They are the best team, I believe, right now. They're certainly the best team in the American League. I haven't checked how their record compares to the Phillies. Like today, the Phillies lost last night, so I think they might be the best team in all of baseball. What do we make of the particular first inning success that the Yankees are having?
Judge, Soto, Volpe, Stanton, those guys are pretty good, and they hit homers, and they usually are on base, and they usually put pressure on the other team. And usually, the first inning for starters is the hardest. Sorry, Kratz and Hannah, I know you guys are Phillies ride or die. But, the Yankees right now are probably playing the best in baseball.
They're not the best at scoring runs in the first inning in baseball. The Phillies actually are, since we are ride or die scrapple land. Yes, I get it. But it's just for the Yankees, it's exactly what AJ said. It is just like the Braves last year. The Braves last year had either a dinger by Ronald Acuna, a walk or a single, a stolen base, and a runner in scoring position, and it got driven in. That's exactly what's going on with the Yankees this year. There's nothing more to look at other than the fact that when you're doing this and you're winning so many games, it is suffocating to a team that pregame you're sitting there going, oh, we got these guys. I don't care. I don't care what kind of juggernaut the Yankees are this year. We got these guys. Oh, dang it. We're down 2-0. Like, that's how they come at you, and that's how they've ridden that success for the season so far.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it is as simple as the first inning is when Soto and Judge in particular are batting, and Aaron Judge in particular. Aaron Judge got off to a slow start this season. Remember March and April? He got off to a slow start. He is already a 5-win player, 5 Fangraphs WAR player. It is mid-ish June. Last year, only 14 players had more than 5 WAR than that, if rather more the entire season. So that's probably why they're doing well in the first inning, because he has batted in the first inning all but one game. He's only missed one Yankees game so far this season. So I think that right there explains it. I was thinking about something that I think JT Realmuto actually talked about early last season when we first got the pitch clock and the new rules and everything. Realmuto talked about how momentum has sort of never been more important, because once the inning kind of starts to get away from you, it's tough to reel it back in. And if you're facing Volpe, Soto, Judge out like right off the bat, it can feel like the Yankees are taking that momentum before your teams even come to the plate if you're, the home team. I mean, so I just think it's as simple as they have really good, talented guys at the top of the lineup, and those guys bat first.
They do. And I think some of that stems from a little bit, because I remember that article or that time that JT was talking about that. He was talking about the pitch clock, that momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's what I meant.
You normally could slow it down. You normally can slow that down, but this Yankees lineup comes at you fast, especially when you think, okay, first guy, leadoff guy, he's not going to really do much. Oh, whatever he had, 32 out of 33 games on base for Volpe. Okay, well then we'll go after Soto. All right, he never swings out of strike zone. And then we got Judge. Well, he's not hot. Oh, wait, May. He was Barry Bonds all May. June, he's still hot. I guess we'll go after Verdugo. He's almost hitting 300. It's just, there's no time to breathe, and the clock just keeps going 18, 17, 16. Or when the guys are on base, it just keeps clicking down, and it's like, I got to make these pitches. And they don't let teams breathe.
Yeah. That's actually, this is not on our rundown. I'm surprising you with some thoughts right here. Working on a piece about Tyler Glasnow, spoke to him over the weekend when the Dodgers were in town, asked him how he feels about the pitch clock. And he said he estimated that there are 10 to 15 pitches a game that he feels like he's making a pitch that he doesn't have a ton. He would like a little more time to think about exactly what pitch it is that he wants to throw. And you can't make 10 to 15 mistakes to this Yankees lineup. I mean, this is that's kind of, that is going to kind of push I know offense is down, but that's going to push that pendulum back towards the offense, at least in the Yankees case, if you're having to make pitches that you don't have total confidence, total conviction in, because this is a lineup that doesn't miss mistakes. So, all right, we got you back.
Also, Hannah, let's not forget this part about it. They don't have time to shake, and they have to throw basically whatever the catcher wants. So if they're not on the same page, there's no time, because you talk to pitchers, they're like, man, I don't have time to shake because the pitch clock's gone. So you have to be on the right page. So I'm sure there's pitches that pitchers throw now where they're like, I don't really want to throw that, but I don't want to get a pitch clock violation. So I'm just going to throw it anyways and pray that it doesn't get whacked.
Totally. Why aren't we seeing then offense do better? You guys don't know. We don't prep for this conversation. I'm just curious. We've gotten ourselves to a place where now I'm like, wow, hitters should really have the advantage. And yet we're not seeing that play out.
The stuff is still really good in the big leagues.
Yeah.
There's dudes that are throwing stuff, and it ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows. I think teams are now, mixing in a little bit more movement than necessarily that just profile of everybody throws 100. Now everybody throws 100, but the movement is also going into that. The sweeper, it's a larger, you're having a larger room for variances in guys' pitches too. So it ebbs and flows.
All right, let's do we have more thoughts on the Yankees, or should we? Did you want to talk about the Yankees before move on? I feel like we haven't gotten to hear from you at all.
I mean, what am I going to say? They're really good. They're really good. I mean, like I said, they're really good, and Frazier's not on, and Kratz is a Yankee lover, so he's got it covered.
All right.
I think I'm just a baseball lover. I love that AJ's kind of going in and out, so he might not hear everything that I say, but I just think AJ knows that I'm a baseball lover because my home teams are the Yankees, the Brewers, the Phillies, the Royals. Who else did I miss? Am I a homer of? Yeah, see? Exactly. Nothing. He has nothing to say. So it's fun for me. He just knows I love baseball.
We're going to make this a Scrapple show while he's gone. Did you see that Scrapple was an answer to a question on Jeopardy last night? And somebody got it. Do you know what they didn't get? John. John was an answer for local slang recently, and nobody knew it, and I was very disappointed. All right, let's talk SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so they have you covered for all your baseball ticket needs. What game would you want to buy tickets for tonight? Some good games, some good pitching matchups, especially.
I have absolutely worn out the seats, the red seat in Fenway, so I can't go Nola and Houck as much as I want to. I'm not going to because I'm going to fly out to Seattle to see actually a good pitching matchup with a really good team and a bad team. With the White Sox Garrett Crochet facing Luis Castillo. I think it is going to be a super low scoring game. I think both offenses are struggle bus McCity, and I think it's going to be back and forth, 1-0, 2-1, that kind of game. But anytime you get a matchup of two, to me, marquee guys, possibly two all-stars, I got to be there.
See, I'd go Texas, LA, Lorenzen versus Yamamoto. Reigning champs. I know they're not off to a great start, but I still enjoy the Rangers. And Yamamoto, man, I watched him over the weekend when the Dodgers were in town. It was incredible. Oh, you're back. You want to tell us what game you'd go to?
The internet is a little bit. We're trying to figure it out. That's why you saw the lady behind me. She's my
groovy,
internet
bro.
guru here.
It's groovy.
Yeah. So, do I get to pick a game?
Yeah, you get to pick a game.
Okay, I'm going full homer show today because you guys are Phillies homers. I'm going Nola Houck because Houkamania with Papelbon coming on hopefully today doing his pick. He loves Houkamania and Aaron Nola. So that's going to be a quick game, and you might not get your money what you pay for from SeatGeek, but at least you're going to get to watch a great pitching matchup.
I was going to say, don't you – that's a great point. I wonder whether or not anyone – I want to know if you're a person out there – I know we're over a year into this, but if you're a fan who hates the pitch clock because you're like, hey, I want to sit at these games for 4 hours, I want to hear from you. I would love to hear from that person.
Yes. I completely agree.
Really?
I completely agree. The people that are like, oh man, I want the game shorter. All it is the people in production of games. It's reporters. It's the radio and TV people. They want the game shorter. If I go to a movie and I sit down and this movie is going to be 1 hour and 36 minutes. I'm like, this is the worst Marvel movie ever. I want the 3 hours.
I'm going to. Oh no. You lost me at the movie analogy because if the movie's over 2 hours, I'm not going. I need
it. I need Endgame to be the entire game. I don't like the short games now because I'm not playing, but it is. I need my money's worth. If I'm going, I need my money's worth. It's kind of like me golfing. I take more shots.
I have not seen if anyone has written this article, but if they have, please send it to me. If someone has written about the fans who hate the pitch clock because they want to be at the ballpark for longer, please send it to me. If no one has written about
they wrote it.
I'd like. Who wrote it? Where's that story?
The Dodgers, remember they weren't selling enough beers? Wasn't it the Dodgers that wrote the article about they weren't selling enough beers?
That's not the same as the fan who wants to be there for the whole day. I want to hear from that guy or that girl. I want to know the fan who's like, this pitch clock, man, it's getting me in, getting me out, getting me home. I want to be sitting at the ballpark all evening.
Kratz mentioned golf, right? And I was earlier went to the U.S. Open this morning over at Pinehurst, and golf is the one thing where you pay more to go to a better course, And then the less you get out of it, meaning the less strokes you hit, the happier you are. Because normally you want to hit like, oh, I paid $500 for this round. I want to hit 150 strokes. You're like, no, I want 75 strokes. So you actually get less and paying for more, and you want to play fast. So it's the one thing where the more you pay per minute or per stroke, the happier you are. Yeah, it's the opposite.
I don't care about golf, so I have no substantive response. So now here's a word from our Geek sponsor.
FT is headed to the MLB All-Star Game this year, and there's only one way you should be finding tickets for any ball game. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so they have you covered for all of your baseball ticket needs.
I'm super pumped to hit the Futures game this year. That new skills competition looks electric.
I agree, Kratz. It's like the Olympics for baseball. Cannot wait to see that. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. Baseball season's in full swing, and you don't want to miss out. SeatGeek has your tickets to every game and, of course, concerts, festivals, and more.
Every ticket's backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps.
And Kratz, you know FT came through for the people. Use our code FOUL for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code FOUL. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, please.
All right. And we are joined by an incredibly backlit Ryan Divish. Hi, Ryan.
What's up? Sorry about the backlighting.
Yeah, you look like you're in the witness protection program, like we're interviewing you for a very sensitive documentary, and you can't have anyone recognize your face.
Oh, well, I mean, like, I'm doing everybody that's watching a favor if you can't see my face. So I'm happy to talk to Scott Service's favorite beat writer of all time, his favorite reporter who loves.
Thank you.
He loves you. No, yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Hannah is Scott's favorite. So if you ever want Scott on the show, just have Hannah co-host. He'll come on because he loves her. He tells her everything, and he tells us nothing. He just stares at her.
Wow.
I wish I could say that wasn't true and be all humble about it, but actually, Scott does love me. So
yeah, it's
wait,
amazing.
whoa! I need backstory here. You can't just be like, "Oh, somebody loves me." Now I need to know why. What'd you do?
No backstory. You know what I did? I flew all the way to Seattle, which national baseball writers never do because it's very far away, and I hung out there for the end of the 2022 season and the end of the 2023 season, and I think I caught him in a good mood. And he loves the pink hair. I'm actually, I might have had to dye it all dark, except for that I knew that it would bum Scott out a little bit too much. So we should, I guess, intro you, Ryan, and say that you are the Mariners beat writer for the Seattle Times, which is why you have such an extensive knowledge of Scott Service's favorite people in baseball. And other than me, he's probably liking his whole team right now because the Mariners are 40-30. They're on a 4-game win streak. They are leading the AL West. I think they have the biggest division lead in the American League right now. That says more about maybe the rest of the AL West than it does about the Mariners. But they've won 13 of their last 17 games. They're a season high, over 500. What's working?
Well, I guess part of it is his schedule right now, but it's pitching. I mean, like, you know, we've talked about it before on here, but the pitching is really good. And when you have good starting pitching, it makes everything else look a little bit better. It's like one of those filters you have on Snapchat or whatever, makes you look better. Good starting pitching will make your team look better because offensively they haven't been very good. The bullpen's been a little banged up, but when you get a quality start almost every night, like last night, Bryce Miller goes 7, allows 2 hits, strikes out 8. It's a pretty good night. So that's been the big key for their success. Get good quality starting pitching. It's been probably even better than I've expected, and then you'll be in most games and have a chance to win late.
All right, you said the offense hasn't been very good, but hasn't the offense just been exactly what they are? Like,
yeah, I mean, like I do think they were never going to be like this juggernaut by any means, but I do think, like, you know, Polanco, he got dinged up and he hadn't really been producing, and Mitch Garver, who I know is a better hitter than kind of what his numbers have shown, and he's starting to show it, hasn't gotten going. And Julio Rodriguez, of course, he's got 5 home runs. I mean, like, that's not what you expect from him. So, like, they're definitely capable of being a better offense, at least on paper, than what they've been. But they just, you know, the strikeouts have been an issue. And that's been the big thing is like a lot of strikeouts early in the season. I think it's getting better. I think we're starting to see a little bit more, but they really do need Julio to kind of find that level that we saw last season in July and August and September, because they're really he really kind of makes the offense go. I mean, like he's hitting for a better average, but you need the slug, you need the power numbers, and so much of this game is reliant on home runs. And truly, he is their best home run hitting threat. And to have 5 homers, to have less homers than Dylan Moore, that's kind of a problem.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned the schedule. Let the White Sox win one today, huh? I mean, the rest of the division is down, so feel free to let the White Sox, sneak one out today, maybe, please, pretty please.
AJ, that's a bad team, and I've watched the A's play the last few years. I mean, I've watched the A's play the last few years.
Bad is being nice. Bad is being nice, okay?
I was watching.
Whatever the worst is, that's what they are. But just let them sneak in one so they get some confidence up before they go to, I think they go to Arizona next. So let them get some confidence up.
I mean, they got, Fetty was good the other day, and Cannon was good yesterday. I mean, he went 6 shutout before giving up the bomb to Luke Raley. I remember we were sitting at spring training, and Mariners opened with the White Sox, and then we saw them later. And I remember looking at the other writers, and I said, this team is effing terrible. And that's when they had Jimenez and Moncada in the lineup. And I was like, this is awful. And so, yeah, I feel bad. I really like guys like Chris Flexen is a good dude. And it's given an opportunity to play. But it's like when they trade some of these pieces, if they trade Luis Robert, if they trade Crochet and Fetty, I mean, like they don't have a good farm system. So what's that team going to look like after the deadline? I mean, that's going to be really tough to watch. And what's crazy is how bad that team is will influence some of the postseason. I mean, like you're talking about the division games in an AL Central that's pretty close. You're wondering who's going to play the White Sox the most at the end of the season.
Yeah, they're definitely going to influence that for sure. Back to the Mariners, besides a pitcher, you can't choose any pitchers. Who's the MVP of this team? Who am I missing? Because if I just look at the stats, OPS, let's just not look at OPS of these guys. Who is the MVP of this team overall?
And just I'm not placating to you guys, and I was a catcher in my crappy NAI school in North Dakota, but Cal Raleigh's been their most valuable player. And you would ask the players, and they would say that because he runs the pitching staff, because he does all the work and all the details, and because he gets every big hit that they need him to get. He's got 1,000 OPS right now in late and close situations. The batting average isn't pretty, and he strikes out a lot. But, in terms of a leader on this team and, a guy that demands respect, Cal Raleigh is that guy because he gets the big hits and because he plays hurt. I mean, this is a guy that played with a broken tooth and his face was all swollen up and he demanded to play. I haven't seen a catcher take more cup shots than that guy has this year. Took a foul ball or took a bat off the wrist the other day. Like he's really beat up and he posts every day. And I mean, they're putting him in at DH. He's going to catch in 140 games this season. And I mean, that just doesn't happen. He might not start all 140, but they bring him in late to catch Munoz and all these other guys. So he's my guy that's been their best player overall.
All right, I got a couple for you because I want to talk about 2 guys you've already mentioned. Julio, off to a slow start again. This is the 3rd year in a row. Every year he's played, he's gotten off to a slow start. And the last 2 years, he's really figured it out. But I'm curious, did they do anything different? I didn't get to see you guys in spring training at all. Like, are they trying to get him off to a hotter start? And did they do anything different? And why didn't it work?
I mean, I think they tried to do a few things different. And I think he tried to do some few things different. He talked about it, wanting to be better with runners in scoring position, wanting to get off to a better start. One of the things he did was kind of change up the setup in his stance and the load in his stance. He took a lot of the legs out of it, and he looked really stiff. And it was a decision he made with his hitting guy back in Tampa, and it just wasn't working. There was no rhythm. He looked, this is the most athletic player on the Mariners and one of the most athletic players in baseball, and he looked really unathletic in the box. And then what happened was he's trying to find maybe what he was doing last year, and that's not easy to do when you spend an entire offseason working on one thing and then you're trying to make fixes during the season while guys are attacking you. And I think also just how they're doing it, a lot of spin away, hard in on the hands early, spin away, and he's got to learn to kind of, either spit on those pitches or drive them to the right center field gap and force people back into the zone for him. And then they also brought in Brant Brown, and I think their thinking was Brant Brown had worked with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman with the Dodgers, and he worked with a lot of good hitters, and they thought maybe the messaging would be different. Obviously, that hasn't worked because Brant Brown's out of a job, and he's and that I don't know if it was just about the messaging there, but that was something that they thought might help. So to me, and I think Erik and AJ would agree, your at bat is your own. Your plate appearance is your own. You got to do it yourself, and so much of it, I think, more often or not, isn't mechanical. It's approach, and it's what are they doing to you? And I think learning that even when he's struggling the most, they're not going to let him beat them. You look at the Mariners lineup, and they'll say, "Well, we can get this guy out. We can get this guy out." But Julio comes up. The last thing they want to do is challenge him and say, "Look, you okay? Here it is. We'll see if you can beat us." No, he's too good. They don't want him on the bases, and they don't want him hitting homers, and they don't want to be the team that gets him going.
All right, Ryan, you mentioned his adjustments. What were the adjustments he made, and why did he change from what worked at the end of the year?
Yeah, I don't know. It was if you watched him, he was a lot more upright, less bend in the legs, and then just very minimal load, kind of, how that you load back to get forward. There was none of that. It was just he went from stagnant to trying to just cook everything, and they thought it would put him under more control, and it just didn't work. He was out in front and kind of just knifing off balls. Honestly, some people talk about it, just find the swing you had in the home run derby so you're catching it out on the front part of the plate a little bit better with your body in a better position. And I think he's been trying to do that, but part of it is when you're in the season, you're not getting the pitches that you want to get, and they're attacking him differently. And I think, if you watch, if he can just stay balanced, he's kind of falling all over at times. That's a problem. And then, when you swing at the right pitches and you're not chasing and you're not worried about getting in on your hands and then chasing away, I mean, that puts you off balance as well. So I think that's just kind of been the thing, is finding finding a stand or setup and just a load and finish that's more athletic and more controlled without being so static like he was before.
We talked about it when Brant Brown got let go, fired, whatever it was. Do you have any other information on why he got fired? Was he set up from the get-go for failure, or were they just hoping something would change with the actual people that they had?
Yeah, it's weird. It's you talked, and Brant's a different dude. I remember when he first came with the Mariners as a minor league coach, he says some funny stuff and he talks differently. And I think the Mariners wanted that. Yeah, I mean, you look at the team, you thought it would be a better fit. They wanted to. I know Scott Service didn't really want to let him go, and I don't think it was maybe his decision because he was very upset. They're close friends, but when a team is striking out at 32% of the time and really showing no signs of getting better in that regard, somebody's got to take the fall, and I guess it was Brant Brown. And really, it is weird because guys like Garver and Polanco, who aren't huge strikeout guys but do strike out a little bit, were really bad. And then, the guys like Julio and stuff weren't getting better. So somebody, I think when you're struggling that much offensively, somebody's going to have to take the hit, and maybe it was Brant Brown.
Ryan, I'm curious. I want to get your perspective as someone who's covered this team for a while because I was there at the end of last year. So like I said, I went out in 2022, made the postseason, very exciting. I remember the end of the year was very celebratory. And then I was there last year because that AL or LEL West race was so close and so tight and so interesting. And the way it played out, they missed the postseason. But what was tougher on the team, just from your read, being in the clubhouse on that last couple of days? Missing the postseason in 2021 when it was another year of the drought, or missing the postseason last year after they had made it in 2022? What seemed to hit the guys harder?
Definitely last year, because I think they felt like they had opportunities to do it. And you look at they started off poorly, and then they weren't playing well, and then they traded Seawall away, but they still made that crazy run in August when Julio got hot. And at one point, they were leading the division by, I think, a game and a half or 2 games. And that hadn't happened, like leading the division in the American League West in August since like 2007. And so, that was a big deal. And then they just kind of cratered, the pitching that they had relied so hard on, I think got ran pretty hard. And then the last 10 games of the season where they had to play the Astros and Rangers, they just, they kind of they didn't post, they just didn't play it up to any sort of their expectations. And I think to be eliminated that close, knowing you kind of could have put yourself in there by just playing better, it really galled on them a little bit. And I think seeing the Rangers, kind of surpass them a little bit with the players they got. We all remember what Cal Raleigh said about the need to add big time players and stuff. There was a frustration level there that was a lot different. And what was crazy is like J.P. Crawford, Ty France, Logan Gilbert, they all had Cal's back. Like, hey, I think players understand what the window is and how close they were, and they took a lot of it on themselves. So I think last year's frustration was high, and it was great. It was funny. Like you start this season and they're 8-16, and people are talking about fire and service and whether or not Dipoto and him will be back after this and all these other things. And then they go on just kind of this run where they get all this great starting pitching and change it all around. But I think, even if you sit there and talk to the players in the clubhouse, they know they need to add. They know it can't be a situation where you trade your closer or anything like that. They need to add to the bullpen. They need to add another bat and kind of take advantage of where they're at. I don't think they expected to be 10 games over 500 at this point in the season, and certainly leading the division by 6.5 games. I think they felt like they had a team good enough to compete in the division title, but like where they're at now, you need to bank some wins and add, because a year ago at this time, the Rangers were up 7 or 8 games and rolling, and what happened, their bullpen got exposed, and they had to hang on and just barely make the playoffs last year.
All right, well, since you teed it up, I got to know, do you think they'll add? Like, what's the appetite in the front office to take on maybe some payroll?
Yeah, that's interesting. We sat down with John Stanton, the chairman of the Mariners, basically the guy that speaks for the ownership group, and he said they'll add, but that they'll do what they can to help Justin Hollander and Jerry Dipoto out. But what else is he really going to say? Obviously, going to say that. I do think they're going to add. They have enough prospect capital that they can add a player, a hitter. They need to add a reliever. With Matt Brash out for the season and Gregory Santos still more of an idea than an actual arm in the bullpen. They're struggling in leverage situations. Ryan Stanek's been better. Andres Munoz is battling a bad back. So they need to add a reliever. And they also need to add a hitter of some sort. And what makes it interesting is how are they – what's that position? Is it first base? Is it an outfielder? Where do you add that player in? And we don't really know kind of who's going to be selling. The White Sox are supposedly selling. The Marlins seem to be selling, but what other teams? The Rockies never seem to want to sell when they should. So it's like with the parity in the league and everybody being within striking distance of that third wild card, how many teams are actually going to give up an impact bat? And I think we've also seen that Jerry Dipoto doesn't ever really go with what everybody thinks they should do. They should just add this or they should just add that. He always kind of looks at it differently. So they'll go the trade route. I mean, they did it a couple years ago with Luis Castillo. And I think their farm system now is in a better spot to trade players, to trade prospects, to get a guy and to really impact them.
Are they the scariest team to face in the playoffs? You watch them day in and day out, but with that rotation and bullpen, are they the scariest team, maybe minus the Phillies' rotation and bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to several scouts that say that and other players from other teams that say, last thing we want is to face Luis Castillo, George Kirby, and Logan Gilbert in 3 games, and then knowing that Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, when healthy, could come in as a middle relief guy. They don't want that. You look at Castillo has kind of been a little bit up and down, but we've seen what he can do in the postseason when he finds that extra gear, and they really just keep coming at you. And the way that, I talked to one hitter the other day who just said the thing about Kirby and Gilbert is they're not even the same pitcher they were a year ago because they keep adding. They're talking about Bryce Miller. He goes, Bryce Miller, we just knew we'd wait for four-seam fastballs, force him into the zone, and then try and get on top of it. Now he's got a two-seamer that moves a lot. He's got a split finger. And like the Mariners are constantly, their pitching guys are constantly trying to keep these guys, refining their repertoires and playing the chess game and trying to beat other teams by changing things up. And I think all your advanced work and everything else can kind of go out the door at times when these guys continue to get better. And that's what players just don't like that. They don't like pitching that makes them uncomfortable, and playing against the Mariners, it's uncomfortable. And then if it's a 1-run lead and the Mariners are very comfortable playing 1-run games and you bring Munoz in, that's not a very fun at bat either. It's funny, like when he falls off the mound, I always kind of see the old Mitch Williams falling off to the side of the mound like that. But he got a little bit better stuff than Mitch Williams did.
Yeah, since you're talking about being comfortable and uncomfortable, I'm doing the game on Saturday. So can you tell me who the hell's pitching? Because nobody wants to confirm. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable that I don't know who the starting pitching matchup's going to be.
Yeah, so Wu is out, or Brian Wu, they did an MRI. No structural damage. He's resumed throwing. They just, he just didn't feel right coming out of his last start and couldn't make his bullpen. So I think that, they'll reslot him, but probably after Texas. So it could be Emerson Hancock is who would make that start. He's up right now and with the team on the taxi squad. So my guess is Hancock can make that start right now and see. Because I don't know if they can reslot the way they're at right now. So that would be, I think that's Wu's turn in the rotation.
Okay. Well, because I'm hearing maybe Logan Gilbert, but nobody will confirm that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm trying to get ready for the Buehler buzz cut day today, so I kind of haven't looked at the reslotting of the rotation and what that's going to be. So it's a big deal, and it's kind of the series is important, but I don't know if they're going to slide Emerson in or not, and how that might affect it. I don't know that they'd want to do that. And that's a tough ask, even though the Rangers aren't playing well. To put Emerson in back against the Rangers, they beat him up a little bit earlier this year.
All right. Well, follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Divish. Say hi to Scott for me. Tell him I said hi. Tell him I hope to see you guys in the postseason. I feel like we might this year. I agree. I think they're a fun team to have in the postseason because that pitching. It's like kind of iffy if they get there, but then when they're there, they're fun. All right. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk TeaZa. You guys are going to tell me about the TeaZa pucks you like, why you like them, what flavors. I've been told there are flavors. Tell me something about TeaZa.
Not just flavors. We have our own foul territory insigniaed TeaZa pouches. It has the wintergreen and tropical in them. Like this. They're legit. It's tobacco free. It's just tea in a pouch. Gives you a little shot of caffeine, and I use it daily, if not 2 or 3 times daily. Help me win money in the poker tournament too, Hannah. So if you need, when the baby comes, if you need a nice natural clean form of caffeine to keep you awake, because the baby doesn't have any idea when sleeping time actually is, teas will be great. Just throw a little teas in the lip and be good to go.
I was going to say, even Hannah could use those. Even being pregnant, she could still use TeaZa because it's all natural.
No chemicals.
It's just tea.
Just tea. Can you drink tea?
You can. You have to limit your caffeine, but you can have some. The whole no coffee thing, that's out of date. You can certainly have some. I have this. This would be what if I just skip tobacco altogether, never dip, never any of that, jumped right to TeaZa. That would be the healthiest way to go about. That'd be very me. That would be very my aesthetic to be I'm only in it for the all natural energy. All right, use our discount code FOUL FOUL for 20% off your first order at TeaZaEnergy.com. Let's talk. That's what he said. Okay, Walker Buehler finally back from his second Tommy John recovery.
That's what he said. That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Walker Buehler coming back finally from his second Tommy John surgery. This is his 7th start, I believe. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 2 strikeouts. His ERA now in the season, 4.64. They lost to the Rangers. I thought Buehler pitched okay, but let's hear what he had to say after the game last night.
Some stuff and kind of what's been working, what's not, and we've talked a lot about like the next things and trying to turn from rehab to performing. So kind of leaned into what had been going well, and for the most part, I feel pretty good about it. I think first time trying to pitch that way, like I was pretty happy with the first 4, and then obviously Corey, put a good swing on it. Kind of ironic that it was the 4-seamer that we've kind of gone away from, but yeah, I mean you can analyze a whole however many pitches I threw and feel really about one of them, but kind of is what it is.
What do you think's been, I guess, just missing as of late with that 4-seamer?
There's a lot of stuff, the movement and all that stuff, like what the TrackMan will tell you, I think is largely similar to where it had been or at times in my career when I've been successful, it's been similar. I just think there's a little bit less on it and a little bit, for lack of a better term, like you behind it. I think we're trying to kind of get into this, perform and do all that, and so hopefully at some point that's kind of the same, but it's just hard, man.
I thought that was surprisingly insightful, even though it sounded like when he said there's no FU behind it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That is sort of the problem he is having. He threw 5 fastballs. The results were 100% hard hit rate, a 33% barrel rate, 400 batting average, a single home run, 103 miles an hour, ground out, and 1 strikeout. How is it that a guy can have a pitch that's still hard, still fast, still looks okay, but doesn't have that same put away power? What's happening there?
He's coming back from Tommy John. That's what it is. He needs time. I mean, he's just coming back. He needs time. For me, that's the biggest thing about Walker Buehler. He needs time, and finding the time is going to be the problem. Yeah, the Dodgers have a great team, and they're in first place and all this, but they need him to start going up, and nobody. It's easier said than done to be patient with guys, especially as a competitor, especially at the big league level. But man, you just got to be patient with old Walker Buehler. Let him get comfortable. Let him get back in. And he hasn't pitched in almost 2 years, so let's take a deep breath. Let's let him get back in his rhythm, and eventually it'll come back. It just didn't disappear.
You heard what he said about the TrackMan stuff too. So he's looking at that. He's like, okay, well, why are they not swinging and missing? Why do I have 2 punch outs in a game where I'm kind of letting it eat? And the TrackMan is going to tell you what the ball is doing. The hitters are going to tell you the truth about what the ball is doing. The hitters are going to tell you, okay, they're swinging and missing at that. Oh, now they're hitting a fly ball on that pitch. Oh, now they're hitting a home run on that pitch. And obviously it's too late once they've already hit it. But you can see how guys are attacking it from the side. You can see where guys are making contact, whether they're catching it out in front, whether it's getting deep on them, beating them, even if they do get a piece of it. And I remember Buehler, the only hits I ever got against him were on sliders because his fastball had that extra late life from kind of an awkward angle that it came. And it was a really efficient fastball that had that late life at the top of the zone. And for me, it was swings and misses and pop-ups or high fly balls. Ooh, just missed it. That's just what he does. And if he doesn't have that yet, exactly what AJ said, just take your time. The Dodgers are going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the division.
I would love to talk to Walker or the Dodgers or the pitching coach or something about, I would love to find out about how do you know when you need to adapt as a pitcher, adjust, work on something different versus stick with that 4-seam fastball and see if you can get it back to having that kind of deceptiveness that it used to. Because guys do have to at some point adjust. That happens in careers. Sometimes you do just need to switch up your arsenal. And it felt like that was sort of what he was talking through last night. It was like, is this how I pitch now? Or like you're talking about, AJ, am I just sticking with what's worked in the past and hoping that that feel comes back? I guess
I think
the Dodgers are in a good spot. Like you said, you can let him work a little bit on it.
Yeah, but is this, is he go like full Red Sox mode and throw nothing but off speed? I don't think Walker Buehler is going to be okay with that at this point in his career. He still throws hard. It's just a matter of him locating it and getting it in better places and getting a good feel. It'll come back.
All right. Well, don't forget to stay with us after Foul Territory when Clint and Alana take us to Dodger territory. I'm sure they'll talk Buehler and all sorts of other things. All right. We're going to talk controversial Hall of Fame takes, potentially controversial Hall of Fame takes. I like this Mike Petriello tweet. Giancarlo Stanton is going to hit 500 plus home runs and get into the Hall of Fame. This is an argument I am so excited to have in 2033. I thought this was somebody mentioned this on a broadcast recently about how like they were like, oh, Hall of Famer Giancarlo Stanton because he's going to hit 500 home runs. I'm sure there are plenty of Yankees fans who would take issue with that. But do you guys have any controversial current players that you would say, I think they're a Hall of Famer, even though maybe a certain fan base would be like, how can you say that? That guy's been such a disappointment for me or for us or something.
I'm going to let Kratz go because I have a couple and I want to see what he says.
Chris Sale currently, I think, will end up being a Hall of Famer. And I asked him that, and what he said, his answer was, I mean, he was spot on, but I still believe it. I still believe that what he did, and if he comes back and I prefaced it by saying 3 or 4 years of almost Chris Sale level dominance. Are you a Hall of Famer? And he said no. He said, because if Mark Burley isn't a Hall of Famer, then I'm not a Hall of Famer. But he could end his career, because he's going this direction. He could end his career with the highest strikeout per 9 of any starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. I don't care what the era is. I don't care all that stuff. And we're talking about 7 years of dominance. And to me, I get a lot of flack, and I even got kickback from the guy when I asked him. So I'm going to say Chris Sale.
Wow. All right. I'm going to make both of you guys mad because you guys both don't like this guy. I'm going to say there's actually 2 guys on my list, Kenley Jansen and Craig Kimbrell. And I'm just going to say, because there's not enough closers in there, and there's a lot of argument on either one of them, but they're basically tied for the amount of saves they have. They're well over 400. They're going to end up with probably over 500 or if not more, and they're both going to get in because there's not a lot of closers in the Hall of Fame.
But should there be a lot of closers?
That's the argument.
I'm in agreement. There should be closers who were closers their entire career. John Smoltz is not in the Hall of Fame because of the years he was closing. He's in the Hall of Fame because of what he did every year of his career. To me, Craig Kimbrell came up. He came up as a closer. If his career is not a Hall of Fame career, I have a tough time understanding who. To me, I think Kimbrell 100% is.
I think what we're realizing is that modern pitching is going to make Hall of Fame voting tricky, because I also was going to go with a pitcher. This is maybe not one where where people will be mad about it. I just think I have a different take on the Hall of Fame. I'm going to say Jacob deGrom. I think if there's a stretch where everybody knew you were the best pitcher in baseball, even if you didn't pitch a ton during that stretch, that's to me, the Hall of Fame should be more about telling the story of an era. And I don't know how you talk about the last 5-7 years in baseball without talking about Jacob deGrom. He's only got 42.6 career WAR right now, but he's got a career 2.53 ERA. And I was just looking at active ERA leaders. Corbin Burns leads active ERA leaders. Of course, that's active, which means no Kershaw, no Cole, because they haven't pitched this year, at 2.95. I think if you're the best pitcher of your generation, even if you struggle to stay on the field, we got to recognize that. You can't talk about modern baseball pitching without talking about Jacob deGrom. Would you put deGrom in the Hall of Fame?
No.
His numbers are short for me. Sorry. He's been hurt too much.
Dave Stieb would get in before deGrom for me. But
really?
I mean, we're talking about different eras and everything, but I just think you got to put together, even if you put together 7 straight years of dominance, that would be, to me, I feel like that's about where it needs to be. He's great, but he's the Hall of Almost fame.
What if he comes back and he's good? Like, not 7 years good.
How long?
3 years.
3 years of deGrom at 25 plus starts a year, I would definitely have the conversation more. Okay. But we haven't seen 25 starts from him.
All right. We will be right back after a quick break.
Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of Foul Territory. Unified Healing is an innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. This technology promotes wellness and deep relaxation, and there are hundreds of locations across the globe. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/foul to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/FOUL. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
All right, we are joined by Chris Cotillo, covers the Red Sox, Fenway Rundown podcast, adjunct professor at BC. Tar Heel forever, it says in your bio. I'm not like a college sports person, so that means nothing to me. I'm going to steal my first question from an Athletic article that I was looking at about the Red Sox, which is just, is this team overperforming or underperforming?
Yeah, that's the big question. And Sam Kennedy answered it, and he didn't do a particularly great job of answering it on the radio a couple weeks ago. But I think they are overperforming just if you look at the injuries they have. Obviously, Trevor Story the first week, Lucas Giolito before that. The guys that have been even on the field, Tyler O'Neill, Rafael Devers have been banged up. Garrett Whitlock's now out for the year. Tristan Casas is out for a few months. I mean, the fact that they're 500 with guys like David Hamilton and Dom Smith and, Jamie Westbrook and guys that I hadn't even heard of heading into the year covering this team, being on the field every day, I think is a credit to Alex Cora. So, are they a World Series contender? I don't think so, but they do deserve some credit for putting together what they have, cobbling together a pitching staff, cobbling together a lineup every day with, a lot of guys that either don't have major league experience, aren't even top prospects. They found a way to do it. So good for them.
All right. You brought him up. You brought up Dom Smith. I got to ask, you saw the thing that happened the other night.
Yep.
How does that happen where Dom Smith's like, I didn't think it was that play, and Alex Cora's like, no, you should have made that. Was there discussions after that, and has that become anything at all? Because we all know the Boston media can blow stuff up, but has that become anything other than just us talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an interesting I was there in the scrum. Cora said that's a play Dom has to make. If you ask Dom, he'll just say he dropped it. And Dom said, actually, it's not a routine play. I didn't want to get my arm ripped off. I kind of see both sides. Obviously, you're trying to avoid injury, but that play in the game, might have cost them the game. They did lose 4-1. They didn't have the offense going against Buehler. Not many people do. It wasn't, the perfect response. Probably easier to just say, I should have made the play and I didn't, which he originally did, but there was a follow-up and he didn't seem to like the follow-up. It's obviously, I think, a tough situation to be in. The clock's ticking for Dom Smith because Tristan Casas is on his way back. So he might be kind of looking at that and thinking the days are numbered. But he actually has been pretty good, for the last 10 days or so, hitting about 300, making a lot of picks at first base. There's been a few missed catch errors that have kind of, put a cloud over all of that. But I mean, Cora said it first. Dom kind of said something different. I don't think it was a huge deal. The Boston media is a little more focused on the Celtics and John Henry giving the middle finger to his fans right now. So the Dom Smith thing kind of basically, was a, short news cycle, but not a huge deal.
Not a huge deal, but I want to hear what you have to say about the middle finger that John Henry gave to maybe one of the best fan bases, in my opinion, in all of sports. And listen, Boston fans have a lot to cheer about. The Celtics, the Patriots for a lot of years there. But to me, they're all just always wearing their Red Sox uniforms underneath their Celtics jerseys, their Bruins jerseys. And John Henry was just like, whatever, piss off.
Yeah, that was, we've been kind of pounding the drum for him to speak to us in the media for a long time, because the last time he did it was February 2020, the day after they traded Mookie. And this was, he's done a couple email interviews here and there where he can craft his words theoretically carefully. He did that with the Financial Times over the weekend, an interview that was done a long time ago. And, there's a few different things. The main one being, at the end of the day, fans shouldn't expect championships every year. At the end of the day, in baseball, it's a 1 in 30 chance. He said 1 in 20, which he was referring to the Premier League, 1 in 30 referring to baseball. And, that suggests randomness, and that suggests, basically that what's the point of playing the games? You have a 1 in 30 chance. And I asked Liam Hendriks and Kenley Jansen about that in the clubhouse on Tuesday when they got back home. And Liam Hendriks basically said that, if that's the case, what's the point of even effing playing? He had a better accent than I can provide here on the show. I'm not going to try to do it. But, these are kind of the clubhouse looking at that and saying, really? They think that's a 1 in 30 chance. And I think it kind of informs how he thinks of things. You think of the Yankees, they don't think of things that way. There kind of is a cause and effect to this. If you pour more money into your team, if you add good players, if you have a roster like the Phillies who they're playing now, the Yankees who they're playing tomorrow, your chances go up from 1 in 30. And right now, their chances are way worse than 1 in 30 because, the talent is not there. The injuries have made it worse. So, tone deaf, I think, is the best way to put it. I think fans were insulted by it. That's kind of been, a long string of this where, the ownership has kind of, starting with Full Throttle, which I know you guys have talked about a lot, including, last time I was on. But this was, I think, just kind of confirming a suspicion that the way they look at it is not the way that they looked at it 20 years ago when they were trying to break the curse or trying to build on the momentum of that. And they won 4 World Series in 15 years. Now it's, it's random. It's a crapshoot. We'll see what happens. And, fans were insulted by it. I'm sure the players were too. You guys were players, and I don't think you'd like an owner saying that about the team you're playing for, which is obvious.
We can talk about this as players all we want because we were players, but how is there any backlash from the fans in the sense of like, well, we're going to do this? Because ownership can say, hey, you know what? We are right up. We're spending right up to that luxury tax threshold. But Is there any backlash that you think or you're hearing fans are like not banding together because it's not a band together, don't come out and watch your Sox because it's going to be summer. Everybody wants to go to the Hamptons or see the Sox play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier said than done. They're going to sell tickets, and you're going to see, Fenway Park full. The last 2 nights, they've, been pretty close to a sellout. 35,000. A lot of that is Phillies fans. We've seen a lot of visiting fans come throughout the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons. The Cubs for a weekend series. Now that you have these, big National League teams coming in, it's kind of a pilgrimage because they haven't played there that often. We saw that the Brewers and the Cardinals in the last couple summers, felt like 40-60 or 50-50 Dodgers fans, Mets fans last year, Blue Jays fans last year for an important series. Like right now, they're filling Fenway Park. And so, the bottom line's probably not changing. I do think the TV numbers are down. At the end of the day, it's kind of hard, I think, for John Henry to have a pulse on the backlash because he is, he has his attention going in so many different directions. The PGA Tour is taking a lot of his focus in that deal right now. The Penguins, Liverpool, NASCAR, all that stuff, rightly so. I think fans feel like, the Red Sox were his number one priority before. Now they're not. I've always said, as a, big company like Fenway Sports Group is, you should be able to go buy what you want, make money, allocate it however you want. And that, John Henry had already kind of paid his bills with Boston fans with the 4 World Series. But now this has gone on too long. And when you're going out and you're insulting the fan base and when you're telling people you have unrealistic expectations to contend every year, I think it's just gone too far. And I think a lot of fans feel that way too, and the way he has basically thrown away the goodwill that he built up over those 4 championships and being the savior that came in and broke the curse and kind of created a mini dynasty over the course of 15 years and a team that always competed. It's crazy to see, the way fans feel about him now. And I'm not talking about like young, spoiled fans who are like my age and used to Boston winning all the time. We're getting emails from people in their 70s, people in their 80s say, I used to love Henry because of what he did, but he's the worst owner in Boston sports history. And, people feel personally insulted by it. I know Bostonians are reactive and all that, but it's the truth of what people are saying. And it's just kind of been this, constant downfall for him based on the way they've acted and when he's spoken very rarely the things he said.
We're going to harp on this a little bit longer because I do think it's worth it. And I think part of what made those comments, the sort of 1 in 30 comments, really insulting is that it's like, sure, 1 in 30 teams wins the World Series every year.
Right.
But fans are smart enough to know that, like, whether or not you're one of the top 10 going into the season, one of the top 10 at the midpoint in the season, and those are different odds. That's 1 in 3. But I'm curious, you talk about Henry having these other priorities, get the other parts of his portfolio at the Fenway Sports Group. Other than just payroll, are there ways that the lack of prioritization of the Red Sox is manifesting in the way it feels to be around that team or to be a fan of the team right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of look at a lot of what it is as, not a first-class product, especially on the field. You just look at star power. I was in New York for the weekend for Yankees Dodgers, and I know that that's probably recency bias and right in your face with all the different stars on that team, including one of Mookie Betts who was here. But like you walk into a clubhouse, and you're kind of like, oh, there's Ohtani, there's Yamamoto, there's Mookie, there's Freeman, the Yankee side, Judge, Stanton, whoever it might be. On the Red Sox side, Devers is there and he's making $300 million. But outside of that, there's good players, but they're not stars. Maybe some of them will grow into that. I think they were looking to Trevor Story to kind of assume part of that. He's been, hurt and underperformed since he's been in Boston. Giolito is kind of a name. He got hurt again. So they just don't have the star power, the cachet. And there's a lot of things about how they do things that really anger fans just kind of on a daily basis. The NESN product, there's a streaming app, NESN 360, that fans are up in arms about how badly it works. It just buffers constantly. They miss plays. And it just kind of feels like, from a fan's perspective, especially a fan that's paying so much for tickets, so much for concessions, parking, that app is $30 a month, that Red Sox ownership is kind of ignoring, the pleas. And when you are a Red Sox fan and you're not a Penguins, Liverpool, racing fan, and that's what you want to focus on, you're going to want, me. But it's just, I think, over time manifested itself. And another point is that, Sean McAdam and I reported back when it happened that they brought Theo Epstein in as a quiet acknowledgement that they had let the Red Sox slide and that the thing had grown too big to manage on the FSG level. There was too much going on. Sean reported the other day, John Henry is more obsessed with this PGA Tour investment and more locked in on it than people who know him have seen him in a long time, because it's just a huge thing. And I don't, despite the background, I don't know all the ins and outs of that golf wise, but I know it's petty in some ways for Red Sox fans to, feel slighted and wish that the attention was all on them all the time. But, this is a team that has finished in last place 3 of the last 4 years. They cut payroll really for no reason heading into the offseason, and they didn't play at the top end of the free agent market. They've changed GMs 4 times. And, you see that reflected really in kind of the apathy, especially in a town where, last night the Red Sox had perhaps their best win of the year, right? They come back 8 unanswered against the Phillies. Well, the Celtics were playing in Game 3 of the Finals. Tom Brady's his number was getting retired at Gillette. We were joking with the people who write for papers like the Red Sox would, on the front page of the sports page might be, the Red Sox won too. That's just the reality of it. This isn't the crotchety, miserable New England sports writer and native thing. It's just the way it is. And, winning cures all, but also, just showing the fans, some that they care would be, I think, it would go a long way. And they just keep going backwards, those comments being the latest instance of it.
Okay, so last one for me. Is it time? Is it time for Fenway? I know they're called Fenway Sports Group, to maybe sell the Red Sox and bring in somebody that is more Red Sox central focused than what John Henry's group is? I mean, I know they did the World Series, but is it time for them to move on?
Yeah, I don't think so. And they're not going to. So it doesn't even really kind of, matter if we kind of talk about it. They're not going to. They don't, as John Henry said in that interview the other day, we don't sell assets. And they're not looking to do that. I do think, the interesting thing is they did make Sam Kennedy the president of FSG and all the properties, on top of his responsibilities of being the president of the Red Sox, where people were worried how hands-on he was with the organization. Now you give him that title and he has more of an active hand in all of the other things. It's tricky. I think in a perfect world, they'd like Theo to run the entire show potentially at some point. Maybe as the president of the Red Sox with the Red Sox focus, but for a couple reasons, now is not the time. Number one, he doesn't want to do that on a full-time basis. He's kind of lived the baseball life and, is enjoying dipping in the other sports that he is. And part two, that's a very tough ask for Craig Breslow to come in and then have, a guy 4 months later who's not only his mentor, but like the greatest executive in the history of baseball, overshadowing him, and like as much as Theo, even in this role, is going to tell Breslow, hey, you have autonomy, you can do whatever you want. At the end of the day, you're going to kind of default to the guy who's won and done it and been as good as Theo has in his career. So they're in a tricky spot right now. They say no changes are coming. Sam will continue being, the president of the Red Sox and running the show. FSG is not going to sell. At the end of the day, the fan backlash can be whatever it is. The record can be whatever it is. They don't have to make a change. They can keep cycling GMs and CBOs and managers and whatever they want to do because, that's what they've done now for a few years. Why not keep it up?
Alex,
we're gonna.
Oh,
you got.
Are we gonna let him go?
Go for it.
I just had a quick Alex Cora.
Yeah.
Alex Cora.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no? He goes to the American League East as a manager next year.
That's a great question. I have thought for a long time that he is eyeing the Dodgers and the Yankees. I know those are two of the best managers in the game, but if they get bounced in the division series or an early playoff exit, like at a certain point, the Dodgers are going to say that's enough, and the Yankees are potentially going to say that's enough, and that's two clubhouses that seem to be gelling really well right now, especially in New York. The Phillies are another interesting one to watch just because he's so incredibly close with Dave Dombrowski still. I know Thompson's done an excellent job, has probably, no desire to go anywhere, and they probably don't want to fire him. But, I don't think Alex Cora is going to be back here. I think everything he said has pointed to that. And it'll be interesting to see. I think he wants a big market challenge, and he's not going to let, rivalry get in the way if the Yankees are going to offer and move on from Boone. That would be great theater, a great drama to cover from my perspective. But I think he's, open to really anything, and I think he's going to get paid. And I also think that his paycheck is going up by the day because he's managing a team with the guys we talked about, a very banged up team, to be 500, and getting the most out of guys who, a lot of guys have not been significant players in the major leagues before. So I think he's earning himself some money. Of course, if they crash and burn here, that might, turn around. But Craig Counsell's the greatest thing that ever happened to Alex Cora, and I think we're going to see it play out that way this fall.
All right. Well, you turned it around at the end. I was gonna say we've been so doom and gloom. I was gonna try to tee you up on Tanner Houck since he is going tonight when the Red Sox go for their first series win against a team above 500 this year against the Phillies. Mm-hmm. Just give us, on your way out, Chris, just give us a little Tanner Houck optimism, excitement, because there's been a lot of things are bad in Boston, but things are not all bad in Boston.
No, they're 500. We're going to keep it on balance. Tanner Houck's been the best thing that's happened to them this year and the best development that they've had. I mean, he has been excellent. He has been, I think they were looking for one of their young homegrown starters to take a major step forward. He has. Crawford maybe a little bit, Bayo maybe a step back. But he's a first-round pick, a guy they think could be a horse. And in the past, he's either been inconsistent, bounced back and forth from the bullpen, or hurt. And last year we saw him get hit in the face with a comebacker. This year he's been their ace, and I think he'll be in the All-Star game in a month. He's been excellent, and that's the type of guy that they have not developed legitimately since John Lester or Clay Buchholz, a homegrown guy they drafted and developed or signed and developed. And, if you have, a rotation headlined by him and maybe add some pieces, if they open the wallet this offseason, the rotation could look pretty good going forward. So, again, the brightest spot of all for them so far.
All right. I see you have your Tired Carolina jersey. The SEC is going to dominate the ACC in Omaha. I'm just saying. But do you have a Hulkamania T-shirt? Because Papelbon's on here, and he'd love to sell you one.
No, I think he's the only person with one, actually. That really hasn't taken off in Boston either. And I will say, do not sleep on Vance Honeycutt, who has a flair for the dramatic, and I hope that continues in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. We will.
It just means more, though, in the SEC, Chris. I'm just saying.
That's not true.
He said
the commercials say it is. The commercials say it is.
ACC's got Stanford and Cal now. Totally different game.
Ooh.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys take this offline.
I'll take Texas and Oklahoma over Stanford and Cal. Sorry.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to our Foul Territory FT newsletter. Get the hottest baseball news right to your inbox. I can vouch for the fact that it comes in very early because I have insane pregnancy insomnia, and it is always the first actually good email that I get every day when it comes in. Because, everything that comes in at like 3 a.m. is just spam and promo or whatever. And then I get at this and I catch up on baseball news. All right. Let's talk the Braves. No bueno. Let's hot corner FE. The Braves are bad. They haven't been bad in forever, and they're bad now. They're not hitting with essentially the same lineup that had the best offensive production by some measures in history last year. I know they're missing Acuna, but even before he went down, they weren't great. So the Braves have lost 5 in a row for the first time since September 2017. 6 years in a row they finished first in the NL East, currently 10 games back of the Phillies. What do we make of this? Something's no good in Atlanta. They've lost 22 of their last 38 for the first time since August 23rd through October 1st, 2017. They've been good for a really long time. I mean, in some ways, the being good for a really long time is a lot more surprising than the being slightly less good now, because we've seen the past couple of years, teams can spend a lot of money, teams can have great players and still have down years. But still, this is surprising, right?
They're hurt.
Definitely surprising.
They're banged up. But they're banged up, right? They have no Strider, no Acuna, right? Max Fried's been in and out. He's been good, but their offense hasn't produced. No Olsen, Riley, those guys, they haven't done what they're supposed to do. So it's not that surprising if you dig into their team a little bit. It's more surprising what Chris Sale has done, right? Staying healthy, what some of the other guys have done. Ronaldo Lopez has been really good. Their pitching's been good. The problem is they're not hitting like we thought the Braves would hit.
Yeah, they have, you look at just their sort of Fangraphs rankings, team-wide offensive stats, and it's very middling. 13th in average, 17th in OBP, 19th in runs, 19th in home runs, which is really crazy. I mean, they had and have last year's home run leader in Matt Olson, and they're just not putting up the same power numbers. I thought this was really interesting. So process versus results. They're not obviously hitting a lot of home runs, but they are second in hard hit percentage and fourth in barrels per plate appearance percentage. So they are making some solid contact. Are they just getting unlucky? I mean, what is when the process is good and the results aren't coming, do you change anything or do you just hope it turns around?
I mean, I guess, if they're barreling up balls and they're not going out of the ballpark like they had been, I guess, you have to look at where your contact point is, what kind of pitches you're swinging at, when in the count you're swinging at. if you're not getting the results, the big leagues is a result-oriented league. Like, you learn and change and adapt and everything. But at some point, Austin Riley has to have more than 3 home runs. That is crazy to me that he only has 3 home runs. MVP type of first half last year that he had, like, he was on pace to win the MVP. Matt Olson, 40-plus dingers. To me, all this stuff, yes, I get it. They don't have Acuna. They don't have Strider. Very few teams can still be in the lead in the wild card when you lose your best pitcher and your best hitter. That is just not – it's not realistic. It's not fair to even expect a team to do that, whatever deficiencies they have or don't have. But to me, this just means you have to watch out for the Braves, because what they're all doing collectively offensively right now, besides Marcell Ozuna, is only a precursor to what's going to happen. They are going to get hot. And unfortunately for everybody else in the National League, they're going to get hot at the same time. And this could be what propels them to another World Series. If they get hot going through September, because they're going to make the playoffs. That's just, they're that good. And they're not even playing that well right now. So when they do get hot, heads up.
Yes, they are going to make the playoffs because the National League is incredibly weak right now. There are all but 2 teams are within 3.5 games of a playoff spot. That is certainly benefiting the Braves right now. Alex Anthopoulos spoke to The Athletic. He brought that up several times. He was like, luckily, it's not like the rest of the NL is pulling away from us. And Kratz, you mentioned this could be another World Series win. I was just checking. Okay, so right now, 10 games back. The Phillies, they're not in first. They finished first 6 years in a row, whatever. That said, around this time in 2021, that was their World Series year, they were 8 games back on June 16th. That was their furthest back that they fell. They were in 3rd place at that trade deadline. They finished 6.5 games up in the division, won the World Series. So they certainly could turn it around. Again, back to Alex Anthopoulos talking to The Athletic. I thought this is some fun quotes to give to your fan base. He said, "No, I don't want to create something that isn't there, but I'd say I've been more active than I've been in the past. Now you're not that you're doing it all the time, but look, when you're not playing well, you have to look at yourself and say, what can you do? But where do they have room to add? It's not, I mean, Acuna is hurt certainly, but it's like they have a lineup. These guys aren't performing. So what do you think the Braves need to do at the deadline?"
I mean, ultimately, yes. The team is going to have success because of the guys that have had success in their career that are already in the organization. Where do they need to add? To me, they need another starting pitcher. They need another outfield bat that seems like the outfield bats that are out there. Kevin Pillar played there last year. Tommy Pham has been renowned for his exceptional clubhouse presence, and they can add either one of those 2 guys. I would be really, really surprised if they don't add one of those 2 guys. The issues that they're going to run into, the Phillies need the same thing. They need production from their outfield. The Phillies' production in the outfield has been one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in all of Major League Baseball. Offensively, defensively, center and left field, they're elite. But for the Braves, if Kelenic steps up, yes, we'll see maybe just a right-handed version of Kelenic, and it'll help him with the platoons, because it's pretty rare if Kelenic and Duvall would step up, but they already had that. So really they're looking for that one splash. Do they get Luis Robert? Is Luis Robert the guy that they go and they give a Smith Shawver to the White Sox? Do they get a Kopech and a Luis Robert? Now you're talking about maybe a Bryce Elder and a Smith Shawver for those 2 guys. And now all of a sudden, Alex Anthopoulos swings another unbelievable move, which he's done when he's with the Blue Jays and with the Braves.
All right, you're talking details, so we're going to bring in Jonny Gomes, powered by Magnus, get his take on the Braves situation and the trade deadline and what everyone should do and some other big picture baseball stuff. Hello.
What's up, crew?
All right, I don't know if you heard, we were talking Braves are bad. but they've got some good underlying numbers. They've got a deep lineup even without Acuna. So what can they look to do at the deadline to break out of this funk?
Yeah, I mean, luckily the biggest move has worked out, and that's Chris Sale, right? So that was a big splash, and Boston really hasn't seen much come back from them. And Boston paying him, I think, $17 million to play for the Braves. So that was a good move right there. And you got your ace going down, and your ace position will go down. So you're going to have to get back to the drawing board. And I think as it stands right now, I'm that wild card. And seeing what Philly does, they're a move or two from being extremely elite. So they just got to stay healthy, continue to stay healthy. I don't think they can afford another guy to go down, and just get a click out of each guy going forward.
All right, Johnny, before we go any farther, your hat, last time you were on, you wore that hat. And I wear a different hat, and it's a Bush's hat. It's a minor league hat. Is it the Durham Bulls? I mean, there might not be a more iconic minor league hat that I do not have. I do not have a Durham Bull. That was not a Durham Bull. You have to earn that hat.
I was a Durham Bull. We're going to head back there for the Home Run Derby X, so I got my minor league swag going. And I've been wearing a lot of minor league hats. There's some cool hats out there. I got the Hartford Yard Goats. Who else do I got? Fredericksburg. I've been rocking a lot of minor league hats. It's fun.
Yes, it's definitely fun. AJ doesn't understand minor league hats. All he gets is big league hats. But, hey, you know what? There's that. I got to ask you, you got your Boston Strong poster in the background. You got your jewelry from Boston. Did you see John Henry's comments?
Yeah, I did. It came around the same time that the Celtics are in the finals and Tom Brady's going into the Hall. I mean, it's title town up there. It is absolutely title town up there. And I think all four major sports, World Series, Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, or bust. And that's what you get when you get the Boston across your chest. Unique time up there, absolutely, especially for the Red Sox. They're just grinding away at 500. Not something that we've always been saying about the Red Sox, but they are treading water. You got to give them credit. They are treading water.
All right, so let me ask you this, Johnny. Why would John Henry come out and say, fans expect us to win every year? You just called it title town. The Celtics are trying to win every year. The Bruins are trying to win every year. Tom Brady won every year pretty much when he was there. So why would John Henry say, they expect us to win every year? Like, how dare they?
I think they do. There's a fan base, and then there's a nation. They call it Sox Nation up there. It's real as it gets. Fans are hungry. They love going to that ballpark and watching the Sox for 100+ years, generations. But yeah, I mean, I think our game is in a good spot when the Sox are in a good spot. So I tell you what, this 24 offseason free agent class is deep. So they hopefully will open up the checkbook this offseason.
Who would you like them to get out of that upcoming free agent class? Who would you be signing if you were an owner or had access to owner money?
Well, I think we got to stay put. There's a lot of opt-outs, right? There's a lot of opt-outs. We'll see what happens with Montgomery, Snell, Chapman. You obviously got Devers already. You got Bregman going there. Soto, get in the mix, right? Get the asking price up. But they do have some young guys, and that's not something that the fan base likes with the Red Sox. Prospect, suspect. They need some dudes. But yeah, stay tuned. Craig Breslow is going to be driving the bus, and we'll see how it goes.
We were talking about the Braves being not so good because the Phillies looking like the best team in baseball. Well, that's all right. Sorry, I'm from Philly, so I'm a little biased there. I know the Yankees, they're still in the mix, but can anyone in the NL stop the Phillies? We thought we were going to be talking all Dodgers in the NL. The start of this season, suddenly the Phillies look like the most complete team. Who's the most complete team? Is it the Phillies?
I think the Phillies are. I think they still have, but it's always been the Phillies way, a lot of strikeouts. But Kyle Schwarber, here he goes. Castellanos, here he goes. They do have a lot of strikeouts. But as of right now, in that bullpen, you're going to see 100 miles per hour from the sixth inning on. That's pretty elite. Starting rotation, you're gonna have four. You got four guys in the top 10 at NL Cy Young. You got three guys in the top 5 for the Cy Young. Their starting rotation is absolutely elite. So you're gonna have to score 5 runs to beat them. And I don't know if you can on that pitching staff and that bullpen.
Johnny, you're never sold on pitchers, bro. You're never ever sold on pitchers. You're always about the hitters. All right, so I'm sitting here in Cary, North Carolina, USA Baseball, watching a tournament. What do you got for us this week with Magnus, and what kind of info you got? What kind of analytics you got? What kind of sabermetrics you're going to bring to us today?
Well, I'm just going to give you a little bloodlines, right? I mean, you know what? I think the only guy I ever played with that had bloodlines was Jared Sandberg, Ryan Sandberg's nephew, I think. But it seems like you got a kid, Toby Hall's got a kid. All these kids are coming up through the system now. But one of Tampa's old pitchers, Doug Wechter, he was down there and looking at his numbers with an absolute elite slider. That's fun to watch. I mean, you know, when your dad is also your coach teaching you that slider, it's pretty cool.
Do we have those numbers?
Yeah, let's see if we can get Wechter's numbers up there. See if Gab can put them up for us. Caden's starting at a different level than the rest of us. Old Wechter's giving him, especially when he's out there for him. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, look at all those sliders, right? Sliders down and out, so you can get a lot of chase. And that 2262 average spin, that is an elite slider. And I tell you what, if I'm Caden, I want to make sure all 30 teams have this report right here. That slider is going to get you drafted, absolutely. With good velocity change as well. If he can tick up that fastball to 90 and get that slider to about 81, 83, he's going to be making a lot of noise. His dad ought to be proud.
What's that range? You talk about the spin range, and now we have just beautiful, easy to read. It's not in like negatives and positives and words we don't understand. What's that spin range for when kids come and they get their data? What is that range that kids want to be in?
Well, that's why I'm so excited to work with Perfect Game, because we are learning it now at a 14U, 15U, 16U on up. And not only are we going to see like baselines, but we're going to be able to track the injury prevention. And is it okay to throw a slider at a younger age? A lot of guys say no, but there's no backing behind it. So that's what I'm really excited to dive into, these analytics, and just keep these young pups healthy and on the mound.
All right. What about another big fella, another bloodline that you have here? Old AJ's buddy, my teammate for a little bit in 2011, the forkball specialist, Jose Contreras. I mean, when I
saw his report come over, I was actually really surprised to not see a split. Maybe he's keeping that in his bag of tricks for a while. But look at him pounding the inner half of the plate, staying down. Of course, just a couple change-ups to get you off. One slider. So he's just throwing all gas, right? Sitting at 85, moving around. He's only got one ball up there that he sailed on him. But he's down in the zone, pitching in. And, of course, we want to get as many of those pitches as we can in the strike zone, especially at the youth level. And Contreras, absolutely good bloodlines.
Yeah, and I'm sure he can throw from, AJ will tell you, he can throw from so many different arm angles. But what you don't have on the Yacker Tech, and AJ can attest to this, is the softball that Jose used to take, and like he used to hold the softball so he could get his fingers around a baseball, but he would split his fingers. So you don't have that info on the Yacker Tech, sorry.
We don't have that info, but it was never fun to watch that guy. And, man, probably some of the biggest hands that have ever, towed that rubber before in major leagues. And this guy's got some good genetics.
Johnny, are you traveling? Are you traveling with Magnus? Are you traveling around to do this?
Yeah, I'm all over the place, going here, going there. I'm actually going to the Slump Buster Classic, right? That's up in Omaha. So 2 birds, 1 stone, the Slump Buster Classic, and finally check out the College World Series. I'm excited for it.
Oh, nice. That'd be sweet. And then when are you going to be like at WWBA in Atlanta or any of you don't go to the showcases or anything?
I tell you what, let's mirror our schedules. Let's go together, buddy system. Let me know where you're at, and I'll come check you out.
Well, Kratz and I are going to be in Atlanta in a couple weeks. Come on down. I'll be at Chase. You better be there. That's a big PG thing.
Yeah, let's get it on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll sit behind home plate and just nerd out on the data while we're watching the kids.
Nerd out on the iPad. No more radar gun.
We're bringing a radar gun.
Yeah. No more radar gun. Gets right on your phone.
That's right. I'm gonna need the password. Thank you.
Yeah.
Were you at the banana game? They're telling us that last time you were here, you're talking about doing the banana game. Did that happen?
I checked into a sold-out Fenway Park, believe it or not, and man, that banana following, it's as real as it gets. And to see those kids, the players, gosh, it was such a life moment for those guys to play there. And there's a lot of dudes that have played for the Red Sox that don't get to play in front of a sold-out crowd. So though Savannah Banana sold out Fenway Park, booked that. It was pretty cool. We had 3 titles represented with Jonathan Papelbon came in, Mitch Moreland came in, and myself. So it was good to get back to the fans and check into Title Town up there in Boston.
Who did the best?
Mitch Moreland laid out a nice little single opposite field. Surprised it wasn't a double, right? Mitchie 2 bags. Jonathan Papelbon, he came in to get the last out. I think it only took him 3 pitches. Probably through what do you call it back in the day? A slutter. I think now it's something different. But yeah, he looked good. And by the way, this guy is jacked. This guy's definitely doing some retirement push-ups for sure.
CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Wait, I noticed you didn't say yourself. What did you do?
Dude, I suck these days. I mean, sometimes, I've gotten a couple of bats, and I just scratch my head, just being like, God, how fast it goes away. I mean, I'm just trying to get the ball to the wall when it's live. I can give you a good BP still. But when they're turning it on, sinking it, moving it, throwing it fast, and I'll tell you, the first thing that goes north of 40 are your eyes. It's just by you.
Well, you know what? It is very magnanimous of you to be so focused on the next generation. Then that's no bitterness there. You're talking them up. You're hyping them up. You're excited about what these kids are doing.
Yeah, I'm excited, especially with Magnus, Yakkertech, Baseball Cloud, even sprinkling in Softball Cloud. That's been really cool to follow that sport as well. Getting the analytics in softball. As long as softball's been around, they haven't had any analytics. So with, Yakkertech being able to give them their ball tracking analytics has really taken the softball to the next level too. Getting me down to the youth. I do got a 13-year-old in the mix too. So, yeah, teaching him this and just watching him grow with his exit velocity, watching him grow with his hit chart, going to left, going to right. It's pretty exciting. I like the space that I am in with Magnus.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for being here. You and your team in your league can have the Yakkertech info as well. Check out cmagnus.com for information. Again, very progeny focused episode. Johnny, you don't know this. I'm very pregnant. I'm about to have my first baby. And now I'm just thinking, I'm like, how early do we need to start tracking his arm speed, his fastball, whatever it's got going on? By the time he's playing baseball, we're going to have this information all the way down in T-ball, I bet.
That's right. Data's currency. Keep him up to date. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yes.
All
right. Don't forget to check out Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal and Alana Rizzo, out now. And now we're going to do some spread and rumors, talk some Luis Robert Jr. Okay, so this has been swirling for a week now because John Heyman tweeted about this, I believe, last week, that the White Sox were potentially shopping Luis Robert. Now he's got a tweet that there are at least 6 suitors interested in him. Dodgers, Phillies, Braves, Royals, Mariners, Blue Jays. The center field position is very thin this year offensively. So in some ways, Luis Robert makes sense anywhere. But of those 6 teams, where do you think he makes the most sense? AJ, I'll go to you first.
Braves, because they need offense and
they need
to
offense.
Play outfield. Or Phillies. Kratz is going to say Phillies, so I'm going to take the Braves because I know Kratz is probably going to say. But I just hope the White Sox don't trade him. As a White Sox fan, I want to see him stay and try to build. You got to build around somebody. Why not let it be Luis Robert?
Why not let it be the 3 guys that they get for him? Why not the go pilfer the Mariners pitching farm that they create out there in Tacoma in Seattle and let him go and roam right field for the Mariners? What kind of upgrade would that be for that team? He's not going to be a center fielder anymore. I said it before. Julio's already the Latin star of that team, and he can just slide in. They can make sure if he's an injury concern, they can mitigate his innings out there. They can ease in an all-star who looked pretty comfortable in the home run derby out there last year. To me, Jerry Dipoto makes moves. Normally, it's like a 12 for 11 move, like a fantasy football draft where you're like, I don't know if you even actually got better, but his trades are kind of fantasy football-esque. But to me, it's going to be either the Braves or the Mariners if this gets done, because those are 2 big splash GMs that are out there.
I actually am kind of with you, AJ. I don't know they should trade him. And not just because, come on, take pity on the White Sox fans. They need someone to go see. I think he is an injury risk. He's dealing with some hip issues. He hasn't played a ton right now. I don't know that it even makes sense for the White Sox to be moving a guy who's got team options in years after this, so you have some control. Is this when you're going to get the most for him? I mean, maybe it is because of the center field position, because there are a handful of teams that are obvious fits for him. But I just think you're right. You got to build around somebody. Robert has not been great this year. He's not been healthy this year. I don't know how healthy he is right now. So are you so desperate that you have to move him now? What are you like? Are you going to contend next year? Is that what we're like? No, you need to do more than trade Luis Robert if you're the White Sox. So maybe don't trade Luis Robert, or maybe does that make any sense?
Yeah, but hey, Buster Olney reported the other day he was traded to the Phillies. So
the hacker should have led with that. If the hacker had led with that, we all would have believed it. No, he had a bunch of other BS in there first, and then everyone was like, okay, so this isn't really Buster Olney. I was like, just do that and then walk away. You're causing real chaos then.
The best part of that was he goes, who's this Buster guy? I hacked somebody, and I don't even know who this Buster guy is. Why is everyone freaking out? It was great. I mean, it was awful that it happened to Buster and that people try to hack other people's social media at all, but it was kind of fun. It got me because I saw that and I was like, oh man, I text Rosenthal and I was like, hey, is this really happening? And he's like, he got hacked. And I was like, oh, I fell for it.
Oh, really? Ken already knew? I wish Ken didn't know. I wish you'd really scared him. I wish he'd been, oh my God, I hadn't heard anything about that. It's like calling everyone. All right. Any other Luis Robert thoughts, or should we move on to some records? Nothing.
Good.
No, we're not excited. Not excited about the White Sox. All right, that's fine. All right, let's talk about some records that were broken yesterday. Jackson Merrill walked it off for the Padres last night against Mason Miller. He is the youngest player all time with a multi-homer game, including a walk-off. This feels a little bit like a stretch in terms of what counts as a record, but still a very cool game that Jackson Merrill was having, and a very cool year. I was looking at the rookies because this is a down year for rookies. This is what everyone's been saying. There's been all these great articles written about why it's so hard to transition from AAA to the majors because it's not a great season for rookies. Jackson Merrill right now is 4th in rookie Fangraphs WAR, so he's playing just fine. Do you guys want to guess who the best rookie is? Position player rookie.
Joey Ortiz.
Yes, he is. Great.
But I'm
How'd
a
you
Brewers
know?
homer. I'm a
Oh,
Brewers
okay.
homer.
Brewers and Phillies can't stump them.
I was excited to see that. I was like, we should dig in on that Corbin Burnes trade at some point, how that's sort of playing out for both sides, because that's a cool way for that to have panned out for the Brewers. You move your big ace. Everyone's like, oh, Brewers can't keep anybody, but they got back a pretty good rookie. All right, we got one more record we wanted to talk about. Michael King, another return piece on a major trade this offseason. 12 strikeouts, tied for the most through first 5 innings of a game in Padres history. Again,
I took the under.
A lot of qualifiers. Why did you take the under? What were you thinking incorrectly?
Well, normally he's like about a strikeout an inning, and I figured he'd be out. It was 6.5, and normally he doesn't go that deep into games, but I didn't count on him getting 12 punchies and the A's having day blindness in San Diego out there and getting punched out 12 times out of 15 outs.
They did bring their Swiss cheese bats. There was a lot of holes in their bats last night, but this has got to be exciting for the Padres. A little Yankees, they don't really care, but our Yankee aficionado in the foul territory family here, he's like, I never wanted to get rid of Michael King. This was on the same series when Kyle Higashioka, another piece in the Soto trade, hit a walk-off dinger. So the Padres are getting a little bit of, hey, this is keeping us around. And I think Michael King is going to be a piece. He's not going to strike out 12 guys in 5 innings, but he showed it last year. His last 7 starts last year, I think 6 of them, he went double-digit strikeouts. So he really has been rounded out into a really, really good starting pitcher who, if you watch that game, in the 5th, he had only thrown 70 pitches, or in the 6th, he had only thrown 70 pitches, and he started to not go for as many strikeouts. He started running the fastball, running his sinker back in, trying to get some ground balls. Got a little frustrated because they kept fouling the ball off and not getting the quick ground ball outs that he wanted. But they need this guy. With Musgrove and Darvish out, he's the guy that is one of the guys besides Cease that needs to help keep this team afloat, keep this team at 500 and in the playoff hunt. I mean, it's unbelievable where they're at with their lineup, but 12 punchies should have taken the over.
Yeah, they're not just hanging in there. They are currently second in the wild card picture. They're second in the division behind the Dodgers. I mean, look, I know the Padres were sort of an embarrassment to the idea of a big payroll last year, but they had a lot of talent on that team, and they also got really unlucky with their run differential and their record in 1-run games and all that. And so even losing Soto, they should be in contention. They still have a lot of stars on that team, still a lot of money tied up in that team. So you're right, to get that kind of return for Soto and to see it paying off right away. I thought this was interesting, that sort of like Joey Ortiz playing well after getting traded for Corbin Burnes and Michael King playing well to get traded for Juan Soto. Both teams should win a trade. That's, we always talk about who won that trade. And it's like in modern baseball, these front offices are all very smart. Everybody should be coming out of a trade with something that they need. You shouldn't be like, well, that was highway robbery right there. So
the White Sox when they trade Luis Robert. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for the White Sox. Right, AJ?
I mean, hopefully. Won't be great for the fans, but hopefully.
Hopefully it will be great for the fans eventually. They can't just continue down on this path for forever.
Do you remember the Chris Sale trade? Do you remember the Quintana trade?
Actually, who did they get for the Quintana trade?
Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Dylan Cease.
I mean, but they haven't won anything. It hasn't led to anything. I mean, these guys are great until they don't work out, right? I mean, until they just don't. Makata, Makata, Kopech, they're good players at the big league level. They haven't been the difference makers. Eloy Jimenez can't stay healthy. I mean, they traded Cease and they got Thorpe and a bunch of other guys. So hopefully those guys, you have to start looking down the line.
Okay, well, I want to get to then the Kevin Pillar of it all, but very quickly, we're going to just touch on capping off a conversation you guys had before. Jorge Lopez of the Mets meltdown. And the Cubs are in agreement on a minor league deal, so he did land somewhere. I was honestly surprised he didn't get a major league deal. He's not pitching horribly, and who doesn't need bullpen hope? But he is going to be on the Cubs. Don't forget to check out Patrick Mooney and Sahada Sharma's Cubs podcast, Northside Territory, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm sure they will talk about this.
He doesn't need a big league deal. A minor league deal just allows him, because the Mets are going to continue to pay him because they're getting rid of him. And so has an opportunity to get maybe a couple innings in the minor leagues. He's been out for about a week. I think that happened a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, whenever he threw his glove into the stands. But maybe get some opportunity to do that. But that bullpen, they need help. And to me, it's a huge pickup for the Cubs. It's a bigger non-pickup than normal minor league pickups at this time of year are.
What's that? You think because he can contribute pretty soon at the major league level?
Oh, I'd be surprised if he had more than 2 outings in the minor leagues.
Makes sense. And the Cubs need it. Yeah. All right. Wait, I did a bad job with that because I was mostly thinking I wanted to get to Kevin Pillar because we were talking White Sox, bad vibes on the White Sox. Apparently all you need to do is leave the White Sox and it makes all the difference. Kevin Pillar, since leaving the White Sox, is now hitting .382 with 6 homers, 24 RBIs in 27 games with the Angels. I thought this was really interesting. I read Sam Blum at The Athletic talked to Kevin Pillar about 10 days ago, and when he got released by the White Sox, if he had retired then, he would be ending his career just 17 hits shy of 1,000 and 2 months shy of 10 years of service time. His 10 years of service time, his pension kicks in July 5th. So I am thrilled for Kevin Pillar that he has found somewhere where they needed him, where he fit in, and where he's succeeding. So he's going to get that 10 years of service time.
Good for him. All I had to do was get away from the White Sox. See how easy it is, Hannah?
I mean, I really do think that, the White Sox are a terrible combination of opportunity for players who maybe aren't going to get opportunity elsewhere, but also just seem like really bad vibes. Like the Angels, it's not like the Angels are such an incredible team. Oh, Kevin Pillar went somewhere where they're winning every night and you're just riding high. The Angels, they're struggling too. But clearly something is working for him there because it has really, really turned it back on, which has been really impressive. I thought this. I loved it. What's working for him?
I'll tell you he got DFA'd and he came on the show the same day, so he got some good juju.
He got fired, and in his dark, fully packed car, he came on the show and just talked about what it felt like to be DFA'd. To me, it was a look into something that we don't ever see as fans. As players, what that's like, what that day's like. So he got that good juju. But he also got Ron Washington back in his corner. And I think there's a way to handle bench players, and he's becoming an everyday player for them now, but there's a way to handle veterans who to get the most out of those guys. It's not just, you got to go out there and play. Why aren't you playing good? Well, actually, coach, you're wearing me out. Or, hey, you're a bench piece. Go out there and play. You played 2 games in the last 7 days. It's a communication factor. It's a communication of what does this guy need? Ron Washington saw him have success in Atlanta. Now he's helped him and put him in a spot that KP was ready for. And wouldn't it be hilarious if he's their representative for the All-Star game? Just saying.
Oh, that would be great. All right. Well, I liked this. I was excited. I'm excited to see that he is now just a couple weeks away from his 10 years of service time. He will hit 10 years of service time on his 9th team that he's played for. That's impressive to continue to get work. He's not a first round. I love that for him. What is this? AJ,
Sorry.
what do you?
My son was hitting, and he just got rung up on a ball a foot off the plate.
Oh, he was robbed. How's he been doing? Wait,
Well,
can you give us a quick update on what you're watching?
They're getting crushed.
Okay. Well, we'll get an update later. All right, let's get to BetMGM next. Let's see how the guys did yesterday. All right, let's look at how you guys did yesterday. We talked about Michael King not hitting. Erik, would you like to talk about yours?
I mean, Washington tried to give it up in the end, but they were the Tigers got within one. I think it was 5-4, but then the Nats added a couple extra. So appreciate it. They kept on the trend of not winning when Reese Olson is out there. Maybe I'll keep looking at that if it's plus money. I love the plus money.
I don't know anything about how to read gambling numbers, so I appreciate them putting this helpful little X's and checks so I know who's doing well. Let's see how everyone is doing in terms of overall money that they're working with.
AJ is killing it. 528. I mean, he's up to 528. Pap, the 14 and 15 for all of his parlays that he does, always picking on the bad teams. I'm excited to see what his pick is. I mean, Claude is 1-1, and yet she lost both of her picks, so I'm not sure. But she's the one that makes these graphics. So I'm not sure how she's 1-1, but she lost her only 2 picks of the year. But we'll go to that later.
Let's hear what Pap is going with today.
What's up, FT Nation? The people of FT, Parlay Pap here with you, giving you my pick for today. Pretty simple. White Sox line is, or I should say Mariners line is at minus 155 against the White Sox with Castillo on the mound. I don't know how it's not at 200, but it sounds like a sucker bet, but too good to be true for me. So I'm in on the Mariners against the White Sox, and I'm also in on the Twins, who are on a homestand now that have been playing pretty good ball against the Athletics. So I'm taking the Twins and the Mariners. That puts my parlay at plus 130, putting down $100 to win 130. Let's get that cheese, baby.
All right, tell us your locks for the day.
I am also picking on the White Sox. Sorry, AJ. After your son just got rung up on a bad call, White Sox have had a lot of bad calls, so it's not their fault. But I'm taking the Mariners. I'm going to Mariners money line. I'm also buying down the total for the game. I'm going over 3.5 runs, and that puts me at plus 110.
Okay. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just doing it a little differently. I'm taking Mariners money line, and I'm taking over 6.5. And that gets me to plus 240. Because I think, everyone's like, oh, neither of these teams score, but have you seen the White Sox bullpen lately? They tend to give up some runs.
They have given up some runs. That's why I took the money.
Just the bullpen? All right.
The starters have done well.
Starters have been pretty good.
You're right. And it's Crochet today, right? It's okay.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
No, you're right.
But he goes 6 innings, gives up 1. The bullpen comes in, goes 2 innings, and gives up 6.
They have the last 2 nights.
Cover.
Yep.
All right, let's hear about today's BetMGM promotion.
Your first bet offer with BetMGM is up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your bet falls when you place your first wager and sign up and deposit at least $10 into a new account. You can download the app or hit up betmgm.com, and if the bet loses, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's slap.
All right, this is a joke 2 hours in the making for the payoff. We mentioned Scott. Where is he? Well, couldn't be here today because he is still in line for the Elly De La Cruz bobblehead night last night in Ohio. Look at that turnout for Elly De La Cruz bobblehead night at Great American Ballpark. The Reds and Cubs currently tied 7 games back of the first place Brewers, but that crowd, that sellout crowd last night, 42,427 at Great American Ballpark, the largest non-weekend, non-opening day crowd in Great American Ballpark history. I assume everyone was just there for the Elly.
That's it. I mean, if we put that picture back up, I can point to right where Scott is on that picture. I don't know if we can put it back up or not. It's fine if we can't. But
No, we probably can't have it.
He's right in the front. See him right there? He's right in the front line. But I love how Cincinnati, if this was Chicago, people would be all over the grass. They'd be tearing apart things. Look at Cincinnati. They're so nice. They're winding through, just waiting for their Elly bobblehead. I guess that's a big value. AJ, did they sell out? Did they sell out in Chicago when your bobbleheads came out, or was that just like a first 2,000 fans?
I had so many I don't remember.
So they couldn't. They just kept coming out with them because he just kept selling out. But that's crazy to me.
They probably sold out the Hartford. They probably sold out Hartford Yog Dogs.
What?
Wait, did you guys see that the Nationals are doing? Oh, this is tomorrow. Oh, this is wait, is it tomorrow? I think I did this right. The Nationals are doing a Mike Rizzo bobblehead night.
Nice.
Are we doing bobbleheads for executives now? That's either a lovely reminder of the Nationals winning the 2019 World Series, or it's a sad commentary on how many of their players they think can generate bobblehead interest on the current roster.
I guess if current roster, you could have a Joey Meneses bobblehead, or the fact that they can't have another bobblehead because they stopped re-signing their Anthony Rendon, their Trey Turner, their Juan Soto. They didn't bring back Scherzer after that contract was one of the best contracts ever. And the one guy they do sign back, he was hurt. So
yeah, you know what they should do? They should just jump now to the James Wood bobblehead night. That's what
just
people
right ahead
in DC
before he's
want.
even in the big leagues.
Yeah. Just start spread, remind people there is reason to be hopeful, even in DC. No, they've actually not been terrible this year, but I just thought that was notable that they were like, who can? I assume every team has to have a certain number of promotional nights, and they were like, we're one decent player short, so they went with Mike Rizzo. All right, Eric, you can tell us what hat you're wearing?
I've never seen a GM bobblehead night, so there's that. As AJ loves it. AJ loves the Rail Riders, different hats that we have. So we're circling back through again, all the Rail Riders hats. And this one is the nighttime glow at the park hat.
Does it glow?
It doesn't glow. It's just that color on its own.
It should glow.
It should, but that doesn't really apply when you have like the lights on and everything. Like if you needed the lights off, like they had that Cosmic game the other night. I don't really know how that went over, like as far as like ability wise, but it looked cool.
That's the next frontier of minor league merch. I want it to actually glow in the dark. All right, tomorrow Scott will be back. He's hosting from a yacht. He's not actually in Ohio. Kratzy, a new host announcement, Grayson Rodriguez, Ken Rosenthal, and a very special Father's Day story that will hit you in the feels. All right, everyone say goodbye. We gotta let AJ focus. I think we're distracting him, so we gotta log off.
Game's over. I'm just sitting here.
He's just looking at the field.